Many of you are asking, why isn't Iran unleashing its full military might against Israel right now when it clearly has the capability to cause much more damage than it's causing? It's got tens of thousands of ballistic missiles, yet we see only barrages in the tens or hundreds. The answer reveals one of the most sophisticated geopolitical strategies used in modern warfare today, and I'm going to walk you through it in a very short amount of time. If you're interested, stick around. Iran isn't holding back because it's weak, you see. It's holding back because it's calculated that restraint serves its long-term interests better than all-out war. This is called strategic restraint, and it's been Iran's playbook, its go-to strategy for decades, actually. First, Iran knows that escalating to full-scale war would invite direct American intervention, something Israel definitely wants, and therefore Iran definitely wants not. Something it's begged Trump for, actually. Israel's begged Trump to please join us on airstrikes, please join us on assassination attempts, and Trump is like, no, no, America first only. I'm not interested. On several occasions, this has happened. But US intervention is something Iran absolutely wants to avoid because it would mean facing the world's most powerful military directly. Second, Iran has spent 40 years building up influence across the Middle East, a network of proxy forces across Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, and occupied Palestine that it supports to varying degrees, and they're successful to varying degrees. Syria is at the moment basically neutralized as a proxy, and that allows Iran to pressure Israel indirectly without risking Iranian territory, without risking a direct confrontation. Is plausible deniability. I'm not involved. I'm not supporting them, right? And that allows for Iranian stability and regime survival. The government in Iran can persevere. When Iran does strike back directly, like the recent missile barrages targeting Tel Aviv and Haifa and Jerusalem and the like, it's carefully calibrated to demonstrate capability, to demonstrate, oh, we're lethal, best believe, while avoiding crossing any internationally perceived red lines that would trigger massive retaliation and trigger the Western powers piling into the region to support Israel. Iran's leadership understands that their real power comes from being able to threaten without having to deliver on those threats constantly. I'm not taking sides. I'm explaining to you the geopolitical or geostrategic methodology and capability of the Islamic Republic of Iran. If you want peace, essentially is what they're saying. If you want peace, be prepared for war. Sivi pacem para bellum, a Latin phrase that has a Persian equivalent that's very well understood by the Iranian citizens. What's more, they're playing a long game where they preserve their nuclear program, maintain their proxy network as best they can, and wait for Israel to exhaust itself militarily and politically. They wait till America sees itself out of the region, because it's got a titan in the to oppose across the Pacific, China. So for Iran, 5, 10, 15 years down the line, 15 years into the future, when the global south is likely stronger, when the Western world, relatively speaking, is therefore likely weaker, for Iran, it makes more sense to wait till then, if they even then want to get a bit more aggressive, want to push out their sphere of influence in the region they occupy. For Israel, naturally, the opposite is true. Israel needs to defend themselves in as many places as possible right now and pull America in to support. Iran also knows that going all out would unite Western powers against it, and due to the position of US bases, Al Udeid, the largest one, smack in the middle of Qatar, every Gulf country really has something. The Gulf monarchies in a conflict, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and the like, they may come directly into the conflict on Israel's side if things escalate and get to that point where America comes in. Despite the protests of, obviously, their Muslim citizenry, they would find themselves aligned with Israel. Very bad news for those monarchies and their governments in terms of its stability, because that will be a public order nightmare to try and contain your citizens as you fight on the side that they've been hating on for 2/70 years. Now, Iran has the power to avoid all that chaos, and it's holding back its punches to do so for what it feels is the good of the entire Middle East. But primarily for its own self, because every nation is interested in itself. That's how geopolitical reality works. It's called realpolitik. I'm being practical here. I'm not, being idealistic about the governments and their wants and desires. Right now, many of these countries are staying neutral, right? The Gulf monarchies, or even quietly supporting Iran's position. They don't want to give that up. But if things do pop off, they may not be left an option. They'll have to give that up and pick a side, and the side will be the other side. So above all else, most importantly, Iran's strategic restraint is about survival. The Islamic Republic has survived for almost 50 years through the height of American power by being cautious, by never betting everything in one conflict, by not putting all their eggs in one basket, and by always maintaining multiple options. A fortress, you see, is strong at defense, not attack. Full-scale escalation could mean huge instability in Iran, may lead to regime change, the government collapsing, or a revolt that replaces them. And that's a risk Iran's leadership simply will not take. Even those who want regime change, by the way, must be wary. As a nation changes regime, they are at their most vulnerable to outside forces. Don't expect Iran to switch regimes without expecting Israel to make the fattest dive into that opportunity you've ever seen it do anywhere throughout its entire short history. You'd see Israel make the biggest moves in its history so that when the dust settles in a regime-changing transitional Iran, Israel has a foothold, or as many footholds as possible, right at the heart of whatever Iran emerges from the ashes. It's all terrifyingly possible should Iran overextend and falter and collapse in terms of its current government. And Iran is no wobbler, so it's playing very defensively, very conservatively, as it has for the last 50 years. So when you see Iran launching measured responses instead of overwhelming force, it's not flashy, it's not impressive. Not that I'm pro-Iran, but I've got loads of people in my circle that actually are pro-Iran. I'm addressing you guys to some extent, and anyone else who's interested. Remember that Iran's restraint isn't weakness, it's strategic restraint. Iran is playing chess with Israel. But just like in chess, each side could be fairly matched but have different pieces. Israel could have a queen left, and Iran could have a rook or a castle and a bishop, right? Both these players cannot play in the same way. The one who has a queen can't play the way the one who has a rook and a bishop can play. One is directly more lethal and gets aggressive and tries to just take out one of the other pieces, and the other might be able to pull a win out if they're positioning correctly and use timing to use the power of both of their pieces against a stronger single piece, analytically speaking. For better or worse, Iran's patience and strategic restraint might actually be their greatest strength in the end, in this conflict and any future unraveling that's reshaping the Middle East. Time will tell how things turn out, and I'm going to be here, hopefully, to report to you the news and the analysis, unbiased and without the Western spin. I'm Mahfouz, and I'll see you on the next one.